I wandered into this old thrift store on the outskirts of town, more out of boredom than necessity. The place was a chaotic jumble of past lives, each item with its own silent story. The air was thick with the scent of mothballs and mildew, like stepping into a forgotten attic. The owner, a character straight out of a storybook with his peculiar ways and a face that held more stories than his mouth had teeth, was engrossed in rummaging through a box filled with what seemed to be remnants of yesteryears. He halted his search momentarily, peering over the rim of his glasses with eyes that twinkled with a blend of curiosity and mischief. "Looking for anything in particular?" he asked, his voice a rough melody that seemed to dance with the dust motes in the air. I shrugged, my eyes scanning the clutter. "Just browsing," I mumbled, my voice barely above the hum of an old radio. That's when I saw it, almost hidden under a stack of dusty, leather-bound books. A plain, black VHS tape with no label. It seemed so out of place, yet it drew me in. I reached for it, the texture of the old plastic sending a shiver down my spine. "Why this old thing?" The owner chuckled, noticing my interest. "Don't even know if it works." Something about his tone, half teasing, half wary, piqued my curiosity further. "I'll take my chances," I said, more to myself than him. He shrugged, a cryptic smile playing on his lips as I handed over a couple of dollars. I didn't grow up with VHS tapes. By the time I was old enough to watch movies on my own, DVDs were already becoming the norm, and streaming was just around the corner. But there was something about VHS tapes that fascinated me. It was during a high school project on media evolution that I first got my hands on a VCR and a small collection of tapes. There was a warmth to the video and audio, a certain tactile nostalgia that digital formats couldn't replicate. The flicker of the screen, the soft whir of the tape as it played, even the occasional static. It felt more human, somehow. Over the years, this curiosity blossomed into a full-blown love for the format, leading me to seek out these relics of a not-so-distant past, each tape a tangible connection to the stories and memories of strangers. Back in my cramped apartment, the VHS player hummed to life, an ancient relic itself amidst my modern gadgets. The screen flickered, then settled on a grainy image of an abandoned house, its walls etched with time's neglect. No sound accompanied the footage, just an eerie silence that seemed to amplify the unsettling nature of the scenes unfolding before me. The footage continued, a slow and deliberate tour through the desolate ruins of the house, each frame seemingly more unsettling than the last. The camera's unwavering gaze explored the crumbling walls and empty hallways with a meticulousness that felt almost invasive. There was a palpable tension, as if at any moment something or someone might appear. Yet nothing did. The video ended as abruptly as it had begun, leaving behind a haunting stillness, a silent testament to the absence it depicted. That was it. No explanation, no context, just an unending, silent exploration of abandonment. Lying in the dim light of my living room, I couldn't shake off the unease that clung to me like a second skin. My mind raced, trying to piece together the story of the house, the reason for the tape's existence. Was it a forgotten project, a lost memory, or something more sinister? The lack of sound, the absence of life, it all felt deeply personal, as if the tape was meant for me, a message I was yet to decipher. The quiet of my apartment, once comforting, now echoed with the silence of the tape, a void filled with unseen whispers. The next day was surreal, as if I was moving through a fog. Routine tasks felt like distant actions performed by someone else. My lectures at college were a blur, the words of professors echoing in my mind without substance. I nodded along to conversations, but my responses were hollow, my thoughts tethered to the eerie, silent footage of the abandoned house. Lunch passed in silence, my fork playing with the food on my plate, my appetite lost to the haunting images that replayed in my mind's eye. Friends cast concerned glances my way, their words of worry breaking against the barrier of my distraction. As the day stretched on, the anticipation of viewing the tape again grew. Each tick of the clock was a reminder of the distance between me and the VHS player at home. The need to uncover more, to dive deeper into the mystery of the tape, overshadowed everything else. Rationality whispered warnings, urging caution, but the pull of the unknown was too strong, an undercurrent dragging me back to the tape's magnetic spell. Upon each viewing, the tape revealed scenes that grew increasingly vivid and distressing. The first showed a dimly lit hallway, where the words, "Leave while you can," were etched onto the peeling wallpaper in what appeared to be hurried, jagged strokes. In another scene, the camera lingered on a shadowy corner of a decrepit room, where a figure, barely discernible, rocked back and forth in the darkness, their whispers just audible over the static hum of the tape. The most unsettling scene unfolded in what looked like the remnants of a kitchen, where a solitary chair sat under a flickering light, and for a fleeting moment, the silhouette of a person was visible, their head in their hands, before the scene dissolved into static. Each viewing seemed to draw me further into the tape's eerie narrative, revealing fragments of stories that felt both alien and intimately personal. Driven by an insatiable need for answers, I began to research. Hours spent in dimly lit rooms, poring over local archives and online forums, led me to tales of the unexplained and forgotten legends tied to the area. Each thread of information seemed to weave itself into the narrative of the tape, hinting at a dark tapestry of history and lore. I found myself back at the thrift store, the door chiming my entrance like a prelude to the mysteries I hoped to unravel. The owner, still surrounded by his sea of antiques, looked up, his curiosity piqued by my determined expression. I watched the tape, I started, my voice steady despite the whirlwind of questions in my mind. It's different each time. How is that possible? He leaned forward, his eyes narrowing slightly, as if measuring the weight of my words. "Ah, that tape," he murmured, almost to himself. "It's not just any tape, you see. It's a conduit of sorts." "A conduit?" I echoed, my confusion mounting. "Yes," he continued, his voice dropping to a whisper. "It shows what it wants to show. To some, it reveals nothing. To others, well." He trailed off, leaving the sentence hanging like the countless items in his shop. "But why? What's its purpose?" I pressed, desperate for something concrete. The shop owner shrugged, a gesture that seemed to carry centuries of secrets. Some things are better left undiscovered. Back at home, I couldn't resist another viewing of the tape. In the dim glow of my screen, the tape unfurled its most haunting chapter yet. The familiar, eerie corridors of the house now seemed to guide me towards a revelation, a hidden room previously unseen. As the camera pushed through the cobwebs, a box, dust-covered and forgotten, came into focus. My heart stuttered as I recognized the faded sticker on its side, a childhood emblem I'd long forgotten. The scene shifted, and there, amidst the shadows, was a figure I knew too well, though time had obscured their features. The realization crashed over me like a wave. The figure bore an unmistakable resemblance to my father, his posture and mannerisms hauntingly familiar. The room around him was a time capsule of our old home, a place my memory had sealed away. With bated breath, I watched as he turned towards the camera, his eyes meeting mine through the veil of time and screen. In that moment, a flood of suppressed memories rushed back. The sound of his laughter, the stories he'd tell in hushed tones, and the sudden, unexplained absence that had hollowed our family. The tape didn't just show random scenes. It was a mirror to my past, to the very mysteries that had enveloped my childhood. Each viewing had been a step closer to this unwanted reunion, revealing layers of a truth I wasn't sure I wanted to confront. As the footage continued, a cryptic message emerged, hinting at a purpose beyond mere reminiscence. The words, "Remember, but beware the path you tread," shimmered on the screen, suggesting that the tape, and perhaps my father's presence within it, were entwined with forces beyond the ordinary, a supernatural thread woven into the fabric of our lives. The tape ended with more questions than answers, the screen fading to black, leaving me in a silence that was louder than ever. The revelations about my family, intertwined with the supernatural essence of the tape, left me standing at the crossroads of reality and the inexplicable, forced to confront the shadows of my past and the uncertain path ahead. After this revelation, I just had to get back to the shop to pry more answers from the thrift store owner. The owner, amidst his relics, greeted my return with a knowing look. "This tape," I began, the weight of my discoveries heavy in my voice. "It's showing me things. Personal things." "How?" He studied me, a mix of wariness and wisdom in his gaze. "It's not just about the place or the past," he hinted, his voice a mix of caution and revelation. "It's about the connection, the ties that bind us to these echoes. But if you must know, start with the house in the footage. It's real, or at least it was. Look for the Hawthorne property on the outskirts of town. But be warned, some doors, once opened, cannot be closed." His words settled over me like a shroud, each one a thread in the tapestry of this unfolding enigma. The Hawthorne property belonged to my family for generations, though it has been left abandoned for years before I was even born. While my name is not Hawthorne, my mother's ancestors helped settle this town, so I am very familiar with the Hawthorne legacy. The boundary between the tape's world and my own began to blur. Nights were restless, filled with vivid dreams that mirrored the tape's imagery, each dream a reflection of the haunting scenes I'd witnessed. Reality became a question mark, the line between the tangible and the ethereal growing ever fainter, as if the tape was not just a medium of content, but a portal to a realm beyond our own. With a resolve as brittle as the autumn leaves underfoot, I made my way to the Hawthorne property, the tape's eerie frames imprinted in my mind. The house, abandoned and being reclaimed by nature, stood as a forlorn monument to forgotten times. Its silhouette against the gray sky was like a scene straight from the tape, stirring a mix of dread and anticipation within me. Inside, the reality was even more disconcerting. The layout mirrored the tape's tour, each room a déjà vu, filled with the tangible presence of past lives. In the attic, hidden beneath layers of dust and neglect, I found a small, locked box that seemed to hum with an unseen energy. The emblem on its surface matched the one on the tape, a silent sentinel guarding its secrets. As the lock gave way with a soft click, The lid of the box creaked open, revealing its long-hidden secrets. The photographs, yellowed with age, captured moments frozen in time. Smiling faces that bore a striking resemblance to mine, gatherings around an old house that matched the one from the tape. Each letter, the ink faded but still legible, contained snippets of daily life, joys and sorrows, intertwined with cryptic hints of a deeper, darker narrative. The journal, its pages brittle, held the heart of the mystery. Written by an ancestor whose name I'd only heard in hushed family whispers, it detailed an ominous pact made with forces beyond understanding, in exchange for prosperity that was fleeting. As the story unfolded, it became clear that the tape was more than a mere collection of images. It was a vessel carrying the weight of a curse that had shadowed my family for generations, its contents a warning and a legacy intertwined. I continued to piece together the cryptic messages from the tape and the revelations within the journal. The obscured history of my family began to crystallize. The pact, made by my great-grandfather Thomas Hawthorne, was a desperate bid during the droughts of the 1920s that threatened our ancestral lands. In exchange for the land's fertility and the family's immediate prosperity, Thomas offered the spirits of the land an ongoing tribute. The memories and experiences of his descendants, unknowingly recorded through the VHS tape. This understanding was solidified during a chilling encounter one stormy night. As I watched the tape once more, the screen flickered unnaturally, and the room chilled. A figure, ethereal yet imposing, materialized before the television, its form barely more than a wisp of smoke and shadow. The pact remains, it whispered, its voice a cacophony of echoes, and the debt endures through the bloodline. The encounter left me with no doubts about the supernatural forces my ancestor had entwined our fates with, revealing the tape's purpose as a conduit for these forces to claim what was promised. Confronted with the undeniable truth of my family's past and the supernatural pact that bound us, I stood at a crossroads. The weight of generations rested on my shoulders, a legacy of choices made long before my time. Acknowledging the depth of this hidden history, I grappled with the reality that my existence was intertwined with a debt beyond comprehension. The decision before me was monumental. Continue to feed the tape with memories and experiences, preserving the uneasy truce, or break the cycle, potentially freeing my lineage from this spectral bondage. This choice was not just about the tape, but about confronting and accepting the shadows of the past, deciding whether to live in the light of truth or the comfort of ignorance. The consequences of this decision would echo far beyond my own life, shaping the destiny of the Hawthorne line for generations to come. After much deliberation, I resolved to confront the legacy head-on, deciding to document my own journey and experiences with the tape, adding a new layer to its narrative. This wasn't just about accepting the past, but actively shaping the future of this legacy. I decided to transform the tape into a living archive of my family's journey, capturing not just the shadows of our past, but the light of our present and future. I began recording moments of personal victory, lessons learned from hardship, and the everyday joys that make life worth living. Each recording was a deliberate act of reclaiming the narrative, turning the tape from a symbol of a curse into one of resilience and hope. This shift didn't erase the past, but added a new dimension to our story, showing that even in the face of age-old debts, we have the power to craft a legacy of growth and redemption. By doing this, I hope to transform the tape from a vessel of curses to one of lessons and legacies. This decision, while personal, was my way of acknowledging the past while taking control of how the future unfolds, turning the tape into a bridge between generations, carrying forward not just burdens but also the light of understanding and hope. Years had passed since I'd made peace with the tape and its eerie legacy. Life moved on, and the tape became a distant memory, tucked away in the attic among other family heirlooms. Yet, as autumn's chill returned, a familiar restlessness stirred within me, an echo of the past calling softly. Drawn to the attic, I found the tape once more, its surface now adorned with new, cryptic symbols, pulsing faintly in the dim light. It was a stark reminder that some pacts once forged are eternal, their terms renegotiated with each generation. As I stood there, the weight of the family legacy pressing anew, I realized the story was far from over. The tape, it seemed, was ready for its next keeper, hinting at the beginning of a new chapter yet to be written.